First thing on the agenda, senior services update. Come on up. Yes, right to the microphone and just give us your name. Correct.
My name is Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for being here tonight. What the best way in the world to spend Tuesday evening? It's raining.
So my name is Lisa Egan, and I'm for 5 months. I'm a clinical social worker that works on the seniors for more than 1 year. Prior to coming to the borough, I was approximately 10 years, which is very interesting. I also worked with family state programs for seniors and for hospital-based home health. I'd like to mention a few things that I've done prior to this position. I've done outreach prior to the left after our hometown seniors with my youth. One way in which I did this was by reaching out to the Tenafly interface certification. I used information from them and information from my own, and I reached out to all the houses within the borough. Visible to the house of worship neighborhood referred to would know what Tenafly seniors might be in need of. Number of events, including welcome night, community night, and events of the Tenafly Senior Center. At these events, I introduced myself to residents and I put my role in the my business card. I reached out to the police chief, that was him, and then created a handout for the borough police officers, and vehicles, and the seniors in the I've also gotten lists from the senior center and from the specified the Tenafly seniors who might be needing, and I've reached out to them as well. From these outreach efforts, along with people finding me from the website, from the senior service tour that around recently, and word of mouth, I've been able to help dozens of senior residents so far. For example, I did many phone calls and some emails to senior residents and their family members and have provided them information. By calls, I've also had a lot of home visits and office visits for residents with them resources and benefits and to provide support. I also follow up with residents and if I find some information that I feel for to protect them and other things. In case you're wondering what kinds of assistance and advice I have in case anyone comes to you, you can refer them to me. I've been helping them identify a variety of resources and benefits such as energy or utility bill assistance, home original, housing, and health needs for daily or personal care, cooking, laundry, lighthouse, and educational mindset. Legal services, programs such as enhanced education, property taxes, and transportation. Finally, by helping senior clients and resources and benefits, I also help them with long-term planning and support, which is how to choose disability and burden living at home. And I just want to say that I found that most of our will be very helping and very pleased to support the seniors as well. Thank you.
Don't walk away from the microphone, please. Thank you for that report. First, I have a question, and you'll have a question. How do you provide legal services? What do you mean? You refer them to legal services. Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not providing.
Okay, just wondering.
Yeah, there are some legal resources.
Okay. Lauren, David.
So I am the senior services liaison, and I to work with and get to know Lisa next couple months. I want to just congratulate her on such an incredible start. You know, she's taken over from Harvey. One of the hardest things we've had in the past couple of years with the pandemic, of course, is finding the people who need it. Because sometimes you have someone with dementia, sometimes you have someone who doesn't want help, but the family wants help. And you know, a lot of times over the past couple of years, we'll get calls from out of our town's family living in another state and saying, you know, my mother, my father, my family was there. What can you do to help them? Lisa came into this position with, you know, sort of, you're going to create, you know, the next stage of this. This is something new. We're one of the only municipalities in the entire county that does it, by the way. So I have to tell you, she's professional. Her demeanor is very approachable. She's very gentle with our residents and she's in action. And moreover, she's innovative. And I think I can't say enough accommodation to her because I think the efforts that she's made are going to pay off and make our residents safer. They're going to make our homes less hoarding. They're going to make our homes less police calls, you know, better with our first responders. And I think the families that are in touch with Lisa are just so appreciative that we do this. So I just wanted to take the time to say thank you for coming out here on Tuesday evening. You know, we have the pleasure of working with each other tomorrow morning. And, you know, every month, what she does and what she reports back is just unreal.
Most of those questions are recent. Me? Okay. Go ahead.
So I actually want to tell everyone else, one of the things we need to work on in this committee is to create a database. We would like to actually have a database here. Michelle allocates one for our active seniors. They're able to come out and do those senior center things. This is different than that. We do not have an active database of those who we need outreach to. You know, over the years, we have tried to make one. Ours is now 10 years old. You know, we have to see, you know, the person's still with us, are they still living here? Do they go to a different center? You know, and so forth. And so we are tasking Lisa with this. And we've asked Omar's office for help. And we've sort of been asking for this when Arlene was here, and it's now been about a year. I would like to see this project through. So Jimmy, I'm sort of gonna throw this back to you to help us oversee this and get this done.
I did start, I had to start.
I know, we're not-
But it did, I feel like I want to call the seniors this time, I guess. And I think, so this, I have is every 7 years old, so it's really not. So from the next year, I went through it and it did somewhat, but I'd like to be a current list that I would go down and call it. You know, I've been calling lists from Michelle and from the assessor's office, but having them give it a great idea.
So do you reach out to seniors? Do you reach out to seniors who are not or aren't currently engaged with you?
Yeah.
Okay. And how does that work?
Very
Difficult. Go ahead.
I have realized a list both from Michelle and from the assessor's office. I kind of call and explain my role and if they need it.
I see.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So sometimes, and so to someone that I can help, you know, applying for property tax relief or other assistance. So, and I appreciate it. Like I actually spoke with someone, reached someone today, a couple who really didn't need anything but happy. And they did have also a relative, somebody called from Teddy was good today about, you know, so, yeah, it's good. I'm not very happy to say my here, so it's fine, but I don't have like.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you know, from the senior center side, I think that they're also interested in getting together. Well, for membership, but also for bus service and also things that they so I mean I know is there any I mean I know that they were sharing a few, but is there, you know, back and forth on that you're putting together?
I really just started mine and it really came up at the last month's meeting of the it's interesting because in a way they're almost two different populations. So sometimes I can get from Michelle, someone who's declined and hasn't seen for a while, so then I can tell it them, but it doesn't always go the other way, but then something you think about is just trying to do outreach. So I think he has been also
Right. It includes them, you know, and maybe just kind of have a partnership with them because they are part of the borough as well.
Yeah. I don't need to do it now. Sorry. You're there, Michelle, and I go over like the calendar for the month, and we can we have more time left, I think, me and
And they were trying to figure out if, you know, how, where the seniors kind of get their communications, we can reach out to them, ask them to let us know that they are. You know, so was red, code red, was one thing I'm talking, but you know, code red doesn't have a universal, you know, membership from the, we only have 3,000 people registered in the account. So you know they're trying to find other sources and likewise for as well. Yeah, no,
Any other questions for Risa? Yes, Lana.
So I also just want to bring out, we last week had a meeting with our engineer and the senior center here. one of the things we were bouncing around is whether we should incorporate you into the senior center, put it your office in the senior center rather than in the borough. So it's, maybe we can discuss it tomorrow at the meeting, but something to think about. And, they kind of like that idea, then, the services are there, but again, I think I do think Lisa needs a private room to be with the family, and she does need, if I privacy issue with them. We don't have the space yet, but. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'll see you right now. Okay.
Next item on the agenda is item A to be considered outdoor seating. This arose with a conversation with two restaurants, 130 Club and Axia, regarding and our attorney to explain this in detail regarding the use of their tents outside and governor's executive orders. Why don't you go into this?
So, as you all know, at one point, the governor's office extended the outdoor dining till this November. The governing body had considered a resolution to do the same with the borough. Now, after that, the governor's office has signed legislation that extends the outdoor dining to 2024, November 2024. And not only that, but also indicates that any regulations that do not allow for umbrellas, tents, etc., in those outdoor areas are essentially invalid during the time period of April 1 to November 30th of 2023, as well as 2024. So you have a couple of restaurants that do have their tents up, and what they're asking for is some kind of relief from having to take those tents down between December 1st and March 30th, whether they can leave it up. Obviously, still subject to fire code, electrical, whatnot, to make sure that any heaters, et cetera, would be in conformity with the code and subcodes. But that is the essential act. The governor's statute that was signed takes away their ability to not allow those tents in areas that we approved until November 30th. And now there's the gap of December 1 to March 30th. There is nothing that is in your code book that would allow for it, but certainly you could take, if you so wanted, the action to allow.
Is there a determination on whether we can deny certain kinds, or fully in their,
They have to be equal to building code regulations.
No, I'm saying, can we deny a specific kind of tent?
No.
So we can't say we don't want it. We allow them to have a tent, but just, they have to, mention.
No, they'd be limited by the space that they have available, and that would likely take care of the dimensions. I mean, obviously, the bigger the tent would be width, the higher it would likely have to go to accommodate. It's just kind of the engineering of it. But no, it takes away any codes contrary during that time period. So regardless of what you decide to do in December 1 through March 30th, those tents can go back up as long as they're in conformance with construction code on April 1.
And it's their property.
Well, if you approve the use of public property, you cannot deny the tent.
At some,
On your own property, you will not be able to deny the tent. No.
But I think Adam's question is about the private property question.
The private property right away, you have no oversight over you cannot deny it. It just has to be in conformance with the law.
Yes, Lauren.
Is there any ability for us to allow outdoor dining from December 1st through March 30th?
There's no prohibition in the statute. It's just the statute doesn't force it on you for that.
I want to follow up that, first of all, I congratulate our restaurants associated with this and spend their hard-earned money within a very trying economic times to invest in their space, to invest in our residents, to stay in our community. I cannot imagine hurting them right now. I think making them take it up and down is unnecessary expense. I actually still love, people still overheating outside, believe it or not, and voting back up, and they're not right now. Not that we wanna, all have to do that, but, my vote is absolutely to allow them to keep the tent running. They've had wonderful, business in like at least the two properties, but now they're usually pretty full. So I really, only see hurting the restaurants, the only other.
I don't have a problem with it. I think just from an engineering point of view. The only difference in the time period is snowfall. No intense or not always a good mix. I just would want to know that when those very residents at risk with the tent collapsing on them, it was 10 feet of snow. I'm fine, just that would be my concern.
I think that goes to the code issue.
Well, I don't know if we have a code.
Uniform construction.
Yeah. They say they're heated. Oh, no.
Yeah.
But like,
I think yeah, it's just, I think we can.
yeah,
Yes, so what were you saying about the public and private property?
There actually is no difference. The only difference in public property is the governing body would have to decide whether to grant the ability to use public property at all. But if you grant the ability, then you cannot limit how they're using it. Well, that's limited by the size of the grant.
So we can live, so for example, we can say we maintain this size on our public property.
Your two parking spots that are not there.
Right.
Right.
Right, but if you're gonna grant a parking spot, you can't say the tent only cover half.
No, but we could say it's not gonna cover the tent.
If there's tables there can be a tent there. Yes, got it.
So you're saying if you allow public property.
Correct. Correct.
All in.
All in.
Halfway.
And just one more question about that halfway. So just so I'm really clear, we heard business correspondence from one business owner. And is it in this situation that we're discussing, all enough and like all the restaurants can continue, or is it just that one or actually?
we're talking specifically about Axia and other.
Oh, okay, so
Those are the only two, well, in terms of private property, those are the only two tents on private property. No other restaurant on private property.
Correct, but we also can't limit it if you're.
Right,
the
like-
use of property.
Like actually,
that's really,
That's
so okay, so then, so we can leave, but then does that mean? Is there like a domino effect, or like, so this is on Washington, that's what I'm just trying.
Well, there is a slight difference, and I would caution about using parking spaces, because we do have issues as far as like, open parking spaces that are parallel, because you have a plowing issue.
Right,
That's
are we allowed, though, to say?
You don't have to grant access to public property.
But
And actually, you're allowed to do whatever you want right now, because the state requirement is until November 30th. So in the winter, it's back in your hands.
right, but that's my, I'm really just talking about right here, right now, at the end of the meeting, it's the meeting, that's the one we're talking about, that's why we even came to this body. Correct?
No, actually, the others had called previously, they just hadn't submitted.
Okay,
But the complaint or the questions were coming in.
so, Kathy, I really give the question.
That was the last one that came in, didn't write.
Okay, so Cafe Angelique, they have spots, they have a tent. If we say, yes, keep the spots, put a big tent because you're not going to plowing, like you mentioned in the letter. Does that now mean that is it case by case basis, business by business basis, what if a business on Washington now says I want the spot, I want the tent. So like, okay, you grant.
We don't have any spots available as of now on Washington Street. We don't grant that. that we took those barriers away. We're not
We
breaking.
don't have, okay,
Whether the council decides to do something different in the spring is a separate issue, but to the heart of your question, right, there's no restaurants on Washington Street. that
that's
have-
cool.
Correct, because we don't have the
And-
outdoor dining available on that street because of plowing issue.
And J Street and Railroad.
Right, correct,
Okay, that's correct. Yeah.
correct, yes.
Okay, so it really is only about one bill.
Well, it's there's three.
Well, the
sets of-
the other two are relevant with the private.
But it's not irrelevant because it's not currently allowed, it's not required by the state. to allow it. And you don't currently have a ordinance that allows for that time period.
And that's what this question is, for those 4 months, right, to let them continue.
All right, thank you.
We did ordinance. So we can do it in two ways. You can do a resolution for a limited time period. Or you can do an ordinance that is effective for a certain time period as well.
So it's a resolution for the time period is here. That we don't have to undo.
Correct.
There's like a sunset on it, then we can have the same conversation next year if we choose.
Correct.
Right. But did you have a question? No, I didn't want.
Well, it wasn't much about the public safety on the Washington. We had it up to
Jimmy speaks to what you do, Barry.
Yeah, by the resolution, they were, and the state guidelines, they were, allowed to be maintained through November, they were just moved this morning.
So the state is not in any way opining on what happens. Public, you know, then you have to give them the thing.
Right, so the state's not requiring you to provide public right of way to private businesses, but it's saying that if you provide it, you have to allow umbrellas and sales. Correct. Correct.
We didn't get it. Good. So it sounds like, yes,
Just as a question. So you said the governor said for 2024,
Correct.
does it still have the gap period of expenditure built into it? Or-
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's fine.
So you would have to, I am recommending doing a resolution because it has the sunset provision. You would have to decide this again next year if you wanted, if they wanted to leave it up or request you to leave it up.
That's fine. Support the resolution.
so it sounds like we have a consensus with the resolution with the sunset,
March 30th, and then it goes back to the state.
March 30th.
It would, the resolution would specifically allow the tenants to continue between December 1 of 2022 to March 30th of 2023. And if that's the consensus, I'll have it on. the next.
But
If we did want to change the number of parking spots, the public parking spots available. Or what would be?
Well, as of right now, the people they've been given would have expired on November 30th. So if that's something that is a consideration, I would recommend that it be considered now.
If we don't, if sunset and if they don't have to, so the tent wouldn't necessarily have to come down. If there's no law.
Correct. If they don't have the ability to use public right of way, then they have no claim to have a tent over public right.
Yeah, you're right, so.
clarity on that.
I do. I do.
Sounds good.
Question. Right. Then you apply. Let's say it's.
Yes.
They apply. With that very.
So the private properties do not. But Angelique would have to reapply now.
Okay, thank you for that, everyone. Next item to be considered local recreation improvement grant.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the state released this grant with guidelines for associated with local recreation improvements. So they can be used for recreational spaces to improve them, build parks, update equipment. There is, there's certain criteria and eligibilities. So I wanted to bring this, the state did release this out, last week, and it was also in Millennium, so you'll see it twice tonight, same exact grant opportunity. So just, want to share it with the council and yeah, I know there's, of course, it's related to another, potentially another, discussion on the agenda tonight, but, some feedback,
This is due by January 20th.
so, yes.
Questions, Lauren?
I'm so excited about this, also, and Jimmy, and for bringing it forward. I think we should start deciding our needs, maybe speaking with Jamie Cannon would be a great idea. I know that right now we're in basketball season, and, this idea of donating our central court or adding another outdoor court in the center of town is, right now being discussed, how to do the best that we're in. Obviously, I've been asking Buffalo for playground equipment and build up inclusionary playground. And of course, we all know that TYD in 2 seconds is going to be asking for upgrade center field, which I understand is still, still deciding whether we're allowed to be.
Great, this guy.
You need a little.
Okay, their names. So that's what they have. So as we know, the enormous amount of families looking for upgrades to our recreation. Very excited about this. Want to make a subcommittee? What do you want to do? Sure. What's the best way forward? What's the best way forward? Because we do need a decision, and I don't want to spend 3 months fighting it. We agree with the decision.
I would just get our professionals to make
Yeah.
some recommendations and bring them to.
I think that's the best way to do it. That'll be faster than, that committee. We get that Jimmy, the head of recreation,
Right forward.
rec board get involved
We're meeting
in 3 weeks.
Um,
Well, we can, rec board we communicate with prior to that, yeah.
right. I'll work with Jamie to make sure the rec board, but please work with Jamie and I'll make sure the rec.
Any other questions about that? Okay, next item on the agenda, the 2023 meeting schedule.
Conflict with this, and I don't know if we've ever worked. But Tuesday, February 21st is spring break, so I would like to change that one.
Actually, I have something more evocative.
So change from Tuesday.
Yep. Based on all, I go around and go to different council meetings. Usually other towns meet once a month and they meet for 59 minutes. I'm gonna be crazy provocative and recommend on the 21st of February, which is President's Week, and Tuesday, April 4th, which is kind of like spring break. Let's do a test. Actually, just cancel this.
Still doesn't. It would be,
I assume we can do that offline, but
Not even on.
send another out. Susan, send another out. Just
So
that's
you're suggesting on February, the meeting of February 21st, April 18th, and then we have one meeting in February and April.
So we have 25 plus meetings a year. I'm saying less than 10% of them. Let's just try it out and see if, the world blows up, and if not.
Laura?
Slightly disagree. I think we actually need meetings to get things done. I think one of the reasons why our town actually moves.
Another 565.
We get a lot more done for it. So I do think that I'd rather put meetings on other days and have, at least if we need to cancel it, but with the grants that we're trying to do, we're just for budget. February 21st.
I didn't include the half a dozen budget meetings we're having in addition to 25.
Yeah.
You lead me to the punch because that was going to be my exact point is if we're going to try this, I can't think of a better time Because we load in every other Saturday. And throw in other emergency meetings. We are meeting one at that time, so to eliminate two of the regular meetings. I think we can accomplish the business of this town. Or one of those other.
So I think it's one.
So we can call this on a part.
So what the new person on it?
So, that's actually. From a. Legal point of view, can we make, they don't have to just be budget, we can do other business, right?
Yeah, it's all on how they are noticed. Because those are all noticed as special meetings. You could do a regular meeting followed by a budget or budget meeting followed by.
That'd be perfect.
So
Yes,
that's two less meetings plus four for the budget, so we're still in that.
yes. We have a question for you. Could you step up to the mic?
Sure.
Oh, my God. Yes. I didn't beautiful chat.
Go ahead, we have some questions.
Wondering if, you know, can we, 21st of February and, what's the April, impact.
All I think is, you know, so, we have, so we have, it's a lot, and we don't have money. Something people might probably, they tend to complain that we don't have on, or we get resolutions on that are more urgent. But if you couple them with the budget hearings, and we don't, miss, you know, something like that, that would be.
So there's one other question about this. So it sounds like we have consensus to do it February 21st and April 4th meeting. So while we're on the top of the meeting, the whole issue of, you know, we have a committee of the whole meeting and then a regular, which we all spend a fair amount of time over. I ask questions about, who has questions about the minutes or the resolutions, and then we then go to the public meeting and we say the same things again, and then we actually vote on it. So what if we consider doing away with the committee of the whole meeting? The committee of the whole would just, we have one big public meeting. And I know you wanted to weigh in on this topic.
Yeah, that's certainly a recommendation that I have been asking for a while, because there is no need for the committee of the whole. We would have to adjust the ordinance a little bit, but the way it was originally going to be contemplated is you have the committee of the whole meeting 1 week. And then the next meeting, it would just be adopting or taking action on those items that have been discussed prior. Now that you've combined it into the same night, it becomes redundant and it's not legally necessary to do so. You can have all of the same conversations that you have during your committee of the whole during a regular public meeting, and then just take action right after you discuss it, and you guys are coming back to it again on the second agenda.
Julie, then what else?
Or you take action then at the next.
No. The issue is that the regular meeting is when you actually are legally able to take action. That's when you're noticing that action is taken, where the committee of the whole meeting is for discussion purpose. So what most towns that I've worked in do is they just have a public meeting. And if there's questions on the consent agenda, it's discussed, then the action is taken to vote. There isn't two meetings on the same agenda. Okay, so.
Yeah, well, what are the advantages?
We get to spend a lot more time.
But you're basically, I mean, so the regular meeting and the being actually quite general. You know, we're not really, because it's very focused and very, you know, it's basically for approval. We're not happy to start.
Correct.
So, so that's the case, really, how much extra time are we spending?
Think of times when we have a closed session item, and because the committee as a whole has taken so long that you're running through the meeting, and yet you're not finishing the meeting till 5:11, and I'm asking for you to take the resolution or to make a motion to extend curfew so that we can still get to items and closed, or think of times when we haven't been able to get to items and closed. That's the 30 minutes or so, because again, when you have your committee of the whole, you have your public comment. When you have the regular meeting, you have public comment again. So it could lead to longer time periods, just based on the fact that it's two separate meetings.
Right, but the reason we had public comments is because before we only had public comments during regular session. And we didn't have it during the whole session.
Correct, but I mean, under the Public Meetings Act, every public meeting has to have the opportunity for public
And,
comment.
and, you know, so we did it.
If you're noticing two meetings, so you have to have public comment twice.
And I think that for the most part, we get, you know, not that there's a limitation on public comment, but we, you know, we manage that by, I'm just saying that, overall, I mean, I'd like to kind of, I think we need to understand, the various.
I think it'll shave about half an hour potentially off the
Yeah,
meeting.
but I don't think it's just that simple, like, you know.
Well, so think of it this way, you have members of the public that come, and the committee of the whole meeting takes a very long time compared to the regular meeting.
Correct, but I
So
think,
the public ends up leaving before you're actually taking action. If you have it all together in one, the public would still be here to see you take action.
yeah, I think that a lot of times we, you know, the reason for the lengthy meeting is less to do with having a committee of the whole and regular meeting than it is with just not kind of pushing the ball. The content, yeah. But, you know, you know, so I just think that, you know, this is not something I think we should just, you know, respond to right away. That we should have an understanding of what we're, you know,
Laura,
I do not like to see, I'm sorry, I'm a no on it. So I know how I work on getting rid of the committee of the whole. I know how it, and on some issues, I need time to go back, do the work, speak to the residents and figure it out. And sometimes we pull things and move them for another week. And then
what
when
is
you.
that? Combined meeting.
That we still have it during the regular meeting.
I don't want a discussion in the media vote without a discussion amongst my peers first, in which we can freely speak.
Well, no, so that would be covered under a to be considered item anyway. That wouldn't change from the agenda. It's just that when you talk about an ordinance or when you discuss your resolution, after the discussion, then there's the vote. And there's still the opportunity for new business or to be considered as it's called on. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't change the substance of anything we do. It shapes the time off the meeting time. That's all.
I think that is the school board actually does as well. They need to be in the whole, whatever it's called for them, 1 week, they meet publicly, another. So I have to say, we used to have committee of the whole in the boardroom. And it really was, I think, less formal, more productive, more detailed discussions. Our professionals were much more able to ask them.
But wasn't it the same number of meetings? So again,
It was
I
the
don't
same
think I
number.
don't think I was here.
There was this, there were some months that were actually 3 meetings scheduled.
Yeah.
Right. And we did away and the separate meetings were done away with because it was felt that at the committee of the whole meetings, we didn't actually accomplish anything at all.
Why don't we try it for, I'm all about test learn test. Why don't we try it?
I'm all for it.
For a month or two and then reassess.
I'm just concerned about transparency and limitations on participation in a way. You know, and I'd like to see, as I said, you know, I'm sure certain people have discussed this prior to the meeting. This is the first I'm getting to kind of think about it, and I'd like additional, you know, details on.
I fully admit that I broached the subject with the mayor.
Yeah, because it's the first.
Well, in the spirit of openness, we don't talk about it privately. This is the time to talk about it.
Which, you know, and that's, but I'm saying, when the mayor said that, you know, this is something that obviously somebody had it.
Of course.
And I'm not saying that you should, I'm just saying that I think we need to be, you know, having a gun to our head. That we should maybe, you know, think, is there a limitation on, do we have to before we orient? Do we have to?
You would have to know before Omar does the annual meeting.
because how you actually do the advertisement is reflective of what kind of meeting you're having.
So we can do it actually next week.
We can talk about it more next week, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
make a decision.
And in full transparency, I've been saying this to the mayor since I started as borough attorney, because I have never had a town that does this.
But obviously, out of 500, whatever town, the majority do.
No, nobody does it the same night.
No, and I know it does it the same night. They actually have two separate meetings as
That meet every week, and it's alternating weeks between committee of the whole and regular meetings. I had towns that meet 3 times a week. That have done.
3 times a week?
I'm sorry, 3 times a month. I'm sorry.
God.
And. But honestly, this is the only town that I know of that does the same meeting twice in one night. They have a committee of the whole. On a different night, and they set the agenda for future meetings.
So what's your view on this?
I have some concerns, because I am worried about, I guess the things I'm hearing some uncomfortableness of like, you know, being expected to vote on something that night. I want to process it a little bit more where you're saying you can put a lot of these things under the for consideration, so it still gets kicked. I am concerned though that if every other town has something called committee of the whole, you know, and some do, some don't. Oh, some don't have committee of the whole. Correct. I am not currently in any town that has committee of the whole. Oh, all right.
And how many towns do you represent?
Between special counsel and municipal attorney, at least half a dozen, if not more.
Do we know what kind of population we're talking about? What percentage we're talking about?
To answer your question, this is where it's exactly where my head at. I do like efficiency. I really agree. Some more efficiency than we have. Oh, yeah, I think that's all for the people of audience, who want to see, it's beneficial for functioning. I'm really not averse to it. At the same time, I really want to make sure that we do exactly, you know, give everybody an opportunity to flesh out these ideas. So I do have some concern in how it is actually executed. How we can learn more.
So how does everyone feel? Want to decide this tonight, wait till the next meeting to decide, so everyone has a chance to think about it, what do you guys want to do? Ladies?
Sounds to you like
Okay.
The next one's not that far.
Okay, and Omar, it doesn't affect our schedule, notices or anything, right? Okay, so let's put this on the agenda to be considered for next meeting.
And I wish that kind of did do 2 meetings, one was committee of the whole, and then 2 weeks later. I don't know how they handle budgetary items.
We had special meetings on weekends and nights.
Yeah, no, 10.
Oh,
Those meetings we have already assigned.
some of us on this one.
They only had 2 people representing, but one was. To me, I kind of like this only because those committee of the whole back then. Read the back.
Yes. Yes.
But they were public meetings.
They were, but
The council people that public did come.
rarely. Very, I was one of you who.
All right, so we're gonna sleep on this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, but they were being recorded and there was a full,
Recorded, meaning that. Taking
Minutes.
no, there were minutes, but there were also like, as we had. No, guys, I understand.
They are only handwritten.
I understand that for the 70s, but I'm saying the back of rooms article would not, there. You know, so that's kind of an argument because of the time. Not today. So, you know.
Okay, all right, so
Just leave it on.
so I'm gonna sleep on to be considered the next meeting next week, probably. I have two questions about the calendar for 23. In December, we've only got 7 days between December 5th and December 12th. And if we have to vote on, what is it, bills or ordinances, we need the 10 days. So I would suggest perhaps if we can, to move the December 12th meeting to the 19th.
I wrote that when I got through, I think, yeah, like it's so before all the holidays, yeah.
Right, and
It doesn't do it.
What is it, everybody good with that, or take a look at the calendar? Say, well, we're still talking about.
We did December 19th.
Yeah. When's Hanukkah next year?
No, you did.
No, it doesn't look like Hanukkah. But
Just double check it's not on the last.
Well, we're gonna move it next week. Of course, no problem.
all right, so put down for instead of the 12th, no more, it's gonna be the 19th.
Julie, it's from the 7th to the 15th.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute, hold on, one more time. Jeff was saying something, just hold on.
Just on it, here is Thursday, December 7th, through Friday, December 15th, so it was not be a problem.
Lauren,
So, we do with the last December meeting, because we don't actually cancel the last meeting, it gets carried over to January.
now if it has to be done in the current fiscal year,
But we typically don't, put it on- well,
doing it this year,
So,
yeah, we have a special meeting.
but that's, so this is avoiding this problem.
right, and I believe we had to do it the last 2 years.
Right.
I don't remember.
So
Yeah.
Omar, December 19th, and is there any reason why we had this at 7:45? It should just be at 7:30 like all the rest.
Regular meetings typically are, regular meetings are typically at 7:45, right, that's in the year.
Somebody wants to do these at 7, by the way.
But it's up to the government, right, if you want. And it's a perfect.
You want to do it at 7:30? It's pretty magic. Do it at 7:30.
I would, know, that we, meeting in November.
The issue with November, because Omar and I looked at that, is elections is a Tuesday. You have League of Municipality, which starts on a Tuesday. And Thanksgiving is particularly early as well.
You know, there's no time to schedule.
Really?
So you have to pick a different night and figure out.
You did Thursday, I don't know, it's Thursday. Do you want to do the Thursday after election day?
I would have.
You would have- That's it.
Okay, so I have another question. So January 3rd for the recess meeting, do we want to do it on that Tuesday, or does anyone want to do it on Monday? Any thoughts? Vanilla, you have your hand up? No?
I don't know if anything you want.
Well, Borough Hall is closed Monday 2nd, correct? So people aren't, that's the holiday.
Right.
So you want to do it on Monday or Tuesday?
Not Monday, I can't, I'm not here Monday.
You can. So it sounds like you can do it Tuesday.
But that's our rework.
That's a reorg meeting, the recess meeting at 7, the reorg at 7:30, Tuesday, January 3rd.
Well, let me ask you too, since you're inviting yet, you want to do it early?
No, that's a good one,
Okay.
Thanks. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
because that's also when you give all the different committees. That point.
Well, Tuesday is also a regular work day,
Right.
so you run that wrong.
I'll leave you today. I think you stay. At the time.
The reorg will be that has to be done. Yeah.
Committee, or should committees, we should tell the mayor now. For the public, you're interested in meeting on a committee, tell them, I have dinner.
Should be, no, okay. All right, meeting schedule, salt, next item, salt shed valuation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So in 2022 capital budget, we set aside $125,000 for the repair of the movement salt building. During that process of being evaluated by the engineer and the original builder of the salt dome was in communications with our public works director, with the possibility of repairs. After the engineer had met with all of them, the cost, which was originally estimated for repairs only, was about $115,000. It's now being estimated at $160,000+. But they're ultimately recommending a full replacement, knockdown replacement, which would be estimated at roughly $500,000 all in. That could go down slightly if the foundation that's existing could still be used, which the engineer is confident that it's still structurally sound to be used. If we went that route with a full knockdown. And again, we already have money in 2022, $125,000 set aside. So if we were to pursue that route, of course, a discussion on the council, that would be roughly $375,000 in 2023's tax for that project.
Questions, Laura?
And a little bit to it. So understood, we had this reviewed by our engineer and now last year. And then put it in our budget for 2022 at 125 to make repairs. At some point during this year, that company and Colliers met, and now everyone's in consensus that the whole thing should come down from $1,000. So I'd like to get another.
They say it lasts 20 years, it's doubled its lifespan. So,
But it's a budgetary amount.
I mean, the biggest thing for me, and ad nauseum, I bring this up any chance I get for the past 3 years. You hear me talk about useful life assessment. And I think that I see our CapEx budget every year, and we talk about having a new car, we love new cars, and things like that, but I don't think we're not looking at our infrastructure as much to put it on. I would think that if it's supposed to last 20 years, and it's 24 years past that 20 years, we should have put a larger number in here. And I can say the same thing about the library, that we're shocked that the roof is coming down. We're shocked that the senior center is falling apart. I don't know how we ask our department heads to look at all the infrastructure we have in town, such that we can budget appropriately, and we're not surprised that we have to spend $500,000, when we know full well we should have planned for this probably 24 years ago. But we really need to do that useful life, the bridge that we're going to talk about today. I hate surprises. We should know every building in town when we think it's going to have to be replaced.
So
Sure, then, Jeff.
it's less of a surprise, and it's less of a case of hand down the road, because literally it's just structures that you bring in. I mean, it literally, nobody wanted to spend replacement in 24 years because it's such it's required by the state that we need to shelter our salt. But again, it's a shelter for salt. It sits in a parking lot, it doesn't have any, I don't know how you make it useful life, it really just a shelter for salt. I really asked in the DPW meeting to start it. So again, it's just a huge budgetary number.
It's not sexy, but again, we know that if it's going to be needed. And guess what? We're going to build it next year. I hope 20 years from now, there's a line item for another $500,000 plus inflation. Because we're going to do it all over again 20 years from now.
Jeff.
So just to expand on some of the conversation that took place with the DPW committee on this. Councilmember David raised a good question. We use a shared facility, but the bottom line is the amount of salt would require, let's say, Presskill to tear theirs down and rebuild, so they're not going to do that, or would require us to build it twice the size of a much larger bus. We're not going to do that. Fortunately, that's not the best option at this time. The other thing is, Colliers seems very concerned because the way that it's not just a test. This is with rods and rods and I'm drawing a blank on the term, but things that kind of hook into the ground, into the tank, tables of different sorts. And they weren't sure that if they take them all off, fix this, that they'll be able to get it back. That was a big concern. If we can't, then we've spent 160,000, still need to spend 500,000. The other thing is, since we can't put the tarp over, which would be nice, it does require a certain type of structure, it does require certain protection, and if DEP isn't satisfied, the potential fine is $1,500 per day. For every day, so if it collapses. If it collapsed tomorrow, we could be looking at that kind of fine, and so in the course of 2-3 months of us getting our act together, that's the 500,000 almost right there. You know, and I think that's what.
Yeah, and if I may add just 1 or 2 points to that. They are confident that and comfortable that it's not, that'll be okay to last through this winter. And then additionally, the rough estimate would be if the existing foundation can be saved and used, would be a saving, well, not savings, but you would tack off about $90,000 or $500,000 probably. Which wouldn't be known, unfortunately, until they're in construction.
Julie, go ahead.
I don't want to belabor it, because I know there's next year's budget with it, but I really do think they compliment and Bateman's entire line of questioning is very intriguing to me. Is what's going on with that massive price difference between you.
I want to repair the lines.
Yeah, one of the things I just want to comment before you said this is I'd like to get a second opinion. In other words, a second opinion of this and alternatives to the concrete wooden frame structure. In other words, are there, frame metal structures that have, roofs that are, not to use the term tarp, because I've seen them in other places where there are heavy tarps and canvas that are in the Northeast. They just look a lot less expensive than a solid concrete with, with roof rafters and shingles. I think we should see some alternative, and then we make a decision for options. Go ahead.
If I may just answer both questions or Councilman O'Connor's question. So I believe I heard Adam's kind of assist that response that, yeah, the one is, so the difference in repair only would be about $40,000. Of course, the difference in full rebuild is the significant difference of almost $400,000. And there is no decision that needs to be made until January, February, the capital budget, whether the council wants to get on 40,000 roughly additional expense for the repair, or if they want to go the route for the full reconstruction. But if it's, I think it's a good recommendation, and if they second recommendations to be sought, I mean that's not have time to do so.
Okay.
And just so one more thing, we very generally that we take, we get at Colliers, any opportunity for grants, any opportunity for state assistance, any opportunity for assistance. The answer is no. Everything municipality is required to do this by state. Everyone will need their own social, and one other community had done a temporary structure, and Andy has investigated it and does not recommend it.
So just to be clear, just to want to see the second.
Second opinion and other options. Even if the other options don't prove to be worthwhile, at least they have the choice. Because this, this sort of structure can't be the only choice. Understood. All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is we consider pedestrian bridge. Then you're next, yeah.
Yeah, so the pedestrian ditch here behind Borough Hall, the library, is the slab is being undermined and it's dropped reaches and it's creating the gap. It has been this bridge is used for both pedestrian walkway access and also for public works vehicles. Since it's been discovered, we've limited or cut off complete access for public works vehicles. This is something that needs to be repaired immediately. Figuring whether it's such a like, it's advantageous to do it now. It is a true emergency. That it does have the potential to collapse. It's not going to collapse tomorrow if a pedestrian walks over it. But this is something due to weather and all other factors aside, would be advantageous, so we don't have to cut off full access to the pedestrian access as well. There are resolutions being considered tonight, or that ordinance being considered tonight for the financial aspect of this. And Mayor, if you don't mind, it might be beneficial to have the CFO speak to that financial mechanism
Right now.
to fund this.
Susan.
But now, that's questions related to this.
Yeah.
Please.
So the bridge is, using, the welfare of the community. So that being said, the engineer came out stating that it has to be done within the next week or so. We need to find, and when the contract can enter. We have contractors that are already being spoke. So we are presenting an ordinance tonight for its first read for introduction. That will cover the project, including the engineering, the services, the work. Then you have resolution on, contributing for the, request of the contractor and also the engineer for us. And all this would be considered an emergency appropriation, that we have, we can adopt.
Questions?
The question that I have is what the one day sort of, because it seems like it's an infrastructure thing. What did it feel like we're in federal program and between programs?
So right now, what we did was we have capital surplus, and our capital surplus was premiums that we received on grants and bond. So we have surplus money that we're going to keep the funding from. We're not incurring any additional debt to do this part.
Yeah.
So that was a question that we asked, if this would qualify under capital from IDA, and the engineer said no, the damage was not created from capital.
Any other questions from council members? Okay.
And just like frame of reference, that this be based on the emergency status. And as Susan pointed out, the availability of the contractor, but Amy will confirm that they did confirm that it would be done no later than next Friday.
Thank you, Susan.
Well,
Okay, all right, so the next, adding an item to be considered, we have here in front of us, Mr. and Mrs. Kidron, am I pronouncing that right? Okay. And they noticed appropriately all the residents near their home, they're requesting a public hearing to appeal a sidewalk decision for a sidewalk removal. And what happened was they directly noticed all the residents that were in there, what I guess was 200 feet, whatever it might be. But them not doing this on a regular basis, they forgot to tell it down, so we didn't schedule it at meeting. So I would like, with the council, I would like to add this hearing, the appeal on the sidewalk tonight, to the public meeting right after the business to the agenda.
I asked, that previously, one, that the building department could be here to address the building questions about why other properties were not required or why they were given exemption from having sidewalk. The other thing is, I don't know that it is, I wasn't sure the full process follow.
So the process as far as the residents having their appeal heard tonight was followed. The problem was that there was a little bit of a disconnect where they understood they had to provide the proofs of the mailings prior to the meeting. They didn't realize that it wasn't right before the meeting, so that's why it wasn't noticed on the agenda. And that, that's all I think is
lack of knowledge because they're not usually coming before a board asking for this type of relief.
But you don't. And it was this just a lack of communication. Or,
We hear appeals for the other residents.
no, but I mean, when there, when we have those requirements, we don't.
Omar has confirmed from the paperwork that was submitted just before the meeting started that the notice requirements were met. As far as the public notice to the neighbors, the certified mailings went out, all the 3 card photocopies were given to the clerk. It's just that we got it at 7 o'clock instead of 2 days ago. And again, that was probably miscommunication. Omar can't track everybody down, but not everybody knows how to respond either. So this is just as a courtesy, the request is the governing body would consider consensus added to the agenda for the regular meeting so that the residents don't have to go through these steps again for another meeting.
I have another question.
Yeah.
For this, was it just the part of the judge? Who denied it?
Go ahead.
If I can say, I appreciate it. We follow the normal protocol, the application for the plan. They don't have the right to.
Building department denied.
And so, it's basically a kid notice for the notice. That's right. Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why doesn't it.
Right.
And we really want to.
And this is still a new provision. This is only the second resident that has come before the council to appeal a denial to review sidewalk.
Jeff,
I understand. I don't know if we could do the same, but then the various boards, adjustment, planning board, sometimes we carry an item without the. We've been done that many times.
Well, I think you have to put it onto the agenda first, and then you can certainly carry your hearing, if would like to, but it would need to be added to the regular meeting agenda before you can take any action on it during the regular
Because I
meeting.
am not altogether comfortable with an item not being on the agenda. For public knowledge generally, and normally, if it's something like this, I go to the site. I don't want to rely on Google Earth. So
can
we
we,
want to put in without further notice to the public.
You can certainly make that decision at the regular portion, the regular meeting, but you have to add it to the agenda to be able to make that decision.
I would highly recommend people visiting it. I remember this from an email a few weeks back, so this isn't out of left field, but I feel it is my neighborhood. So just I recommend anyone, if they haven't, if they don't know, but to go and visit it. Before it goes.
okay, so in other words, we can carry this without them having to notice that it.
Correct, but it would be a decision that would be taken at the regular meeting.
Okay, so we have a consensus to put this on to the regular meeting tonight, so we can make that decision. Kind of sounds like we did, right? Okay.
Well, I'll ask it later. During this discussion, if any of their neighbors and friends want to talk about sidewalk, I want them to know it's getting carried to the next. meeting.
Well, I mean, so the way that it works when you can carry on notice at a hearing, and it's the same in the court process, not just the board. What the presumption is that 100-foot radius has received personal notice. So anyone that would be interested in speaking would be here tonight and would hear that it would be carried on the record.
If they're within 200 feet, 500 feet, that's what I don't.
Well, Omar has the green card.
I don't know. That's just-
This will, I don't see what happened to this, because I got into the past.
The tax code.
But is that because it's a floor,
No, because it's not within 100 feet.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna have a further discussion about this in the public meeting, which is coming shortly.
We'll have we can actually have a.
Full-blown discussion about whatever topic you choose. Right, okay. All right, so next we're gonna have the administrative report, please. Well, yeah, I think, Ms. Kidman, so the council has a consensus to discuss this further at the public hearing, which is happening shortly. We could wind up moving it to the next meeting, but we won't have a notice here.
You want to be available to answer any
Right.
questions?
We talk about it now, if there wasn't an opinion at all.
We can talk about it now, we're going to get a whole meeting, we can't, we have to wait. Okay,
Just regular meeting, so you can also feel how everything works.
so administrative report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If I may just, speak to a couple of things, I'm happy to take any questions. As mentioned earlier, the, outdoor dining, barriers were removed this morning, in line with the resolution allowing them, to be, set up through November. The synthetic ice rink was set up today by the Assistance of Public Works. And additionally, the tree in Kyler Park was also, it has the lights on it, so it's for the season. Tonight's, today, they,
You didn't do like
We're doing the holidays right now.
that's okay. You'll see, there are a couple of resolutions on the agenda tonight, related to cybersecurity and chip requirements. So there are a couple of resolutions tonight, and I would like to speak to them briefly. These are requirements, of the MEL and chip, same for all pretty much similar public entities. Establishes restrictions, protocols, how to respond to, any incidents that may arise. So this is a program that they have created, a 3-tier program, and you're at least required to meet tier 1, which we meet almost all 3, but right now at the minimum we meet tier 1, and we'll progressively work with tier 3. This will also be, the JIP has said that this program will be reshaped and more restrictive come the new year. So but for the purposes now, what we are required to do are adopt these. Again, these are just, they haven't been amended, these are JIP requirements, and they have to be followed, and just provide security protocols that relates to cybersecurity. And all these are in place already for the most part. This is actually an incentive program through our insurance provider, because the cyber coverage allows, if you have a claim, has a $25,000 deductible. If you meet tier 1, your deductible goes down to $2,500. If you meet tier 2, goes down by $5,000. If you meet all 3, the deductible goes down to 0. So we have a couple of those items that are in motion, in process now, like the multi-factor authentication. That will be in place in the next couple of weeks. We're just waiting on the tokens to come in from the vendor. So that'll provide, when you're trying to access something, it'll say, we'll give a token, you put the code, so for all of the city. So pretty much it's all heightened security, it's incentivizing the entities to have stricter protocols in place. These are required for everyone in Melchip, and again, they're incentivizing the municipalities and other entities to do as much as they can by reducing the deductible needed if there's ever a claim. So I know that was a lot, and happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, do they know what it's?
No, I mean, the school is provided the same type of, they have to follow this, it's similar, not the same, but similar type of protocols and tiering system. And the school is actually a little bit ahead of us, just the multi-factor authentication. It's the just sheer number of staff that they have and students, they rolled it out there first, and then also be a little bit easier just so we can kind of iron out the process. So they, again, we're already doing these things. It's just a matter of adopting them. I signed up for them. If you saw, there was a couple of membership newsletters to be part of, so I'm on that. Again, most of these, probably 90+% are already in place. Backups, security, firewalls, alerts of this is an email coming from an outside outside network source. So things like that. Yeah, no problem.
It's interesting, we mentioned municipalities, we kind of go to that, cyber security, something or other that we did. I thought it was really interesting, they gave examples of extended public hacks, like public places. And the domain address, the most prevalent domain address were municipalities, were state, New Jersey state-run municipalities. And you know, how, what happens is, once, you know, people go in with whatever account they go in, they're going in with the local accounts. So it allows these hackers to get into, they didn't intend to get into the municipality, now they have open access. Great.
Do you have other updates or reading questions?
Just a couple other ones, and I'm again, I have to take questions after. Just briefly, it's already on the team center before that project's actually done. It was done earlier this week. So that was done, and I know there's a couple things that follow with Froggy and Oresco. The one thing I wanted to add about Oresco Park is I did actually receive for yesterday the purchase order from the county for the reimbursement. So that money will be coming shortly. So they did submit that. So
We don't have a building report or code enforcement report.
so I believe that may have come in after the deadline, I believe. And also, unfortunately, the one day was still on leave. So they are being done, just maybe a little bit.
So I would just, again, stress for our code enforcement, vacant property ordinance. Really needs to be enforcement of kind of towards vacant, not really flat, not ready to be rented. So I want our downtown, I have to be half open, you know, that closed looking stores. If the store next to it doesn't want that, so.
I'm impressed though, it seems like things are picking up quite a bit, even unfortunately. Fish, left, but it's already re-rented. Infinite Eatery or something, I don't know. I applied for a job. So that's great, Cafe Plaza is awesome. My dinner tonight, use shrimp.
Julie, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick on both Froggy and Oresco. On Froggy Park, you'll see there's a few options for playground equipment. We're building a recommendation from both Jamie and Mike for the inclusive spinner. So that's a discussion that we had. And then I wanted to clarify, I already got a question about the Oresco Park and the feedback. So I did want to clarify on that, that I did ask the rec department, senior center, and HPC chair for their feedback. While there was 2 of the 3 groups felt that there was picnic tables and so on could be added, but again, HPC felt that there's enough has already been added, and the chess tables would make it enough, with the intent of having mainly open space. So I apologize if that wasn't clear, but they did indicate that would be more picnic tables and type of seating would be nice. From recreation and senior center. And then HBC had stated that the original intent of the design of the park was maybe supposed to be kind of a little passive and the open space was intentional. So again, we added the additional paths, the walking paths, we did add 2 more benches. And we can move the chess tables if you'd like. That was kind of the ultimate sort of consensus recommendation, but again, up for discussion, I did want to clarify that a little bit.
Questions, go ahead.
I just did that a climber, you add more the hours circle. I feel like people sit close to that for share enough space for that.
Probably I could ask to see what if they have, what, you know, kind of what our what benches we have, and if they're spacing.
So we all try to.
Yeah.
Those are, so what about the spinner for Froggy? What do you need to?
I mean, that's in general, yeah, both, that's also on it's on the agenda. I mean, in general, both are, you know, for discussion and kind of a little bit of guidance. I mean, it's up to you guys while we're on a rush.
We're talking about it.
I mean, both.
Well, I still think that I actually don't mind any of these new additions, but I felt the first two choices were so too bad. Although the new seesaw is pretty cool, but, I am still going to push, by the way, for Keith and Froggy. And we still have an entire playground that was taken down in Walnut that has nothing in it. Right now we have a box and it's empty. It had a graffiti, sand thing, that's not, it had inclusionary swings, those are taken down. So I am still pushing to buy more than one piece of equipment right now. I'd like to buy something from, and I'd like to still consider putting playground equipment. Like an inclusionary playground at one.
So then bottom is the addition.
So Walnut is a big area, and then there's just another box in the back for your interest. Everything in that box is gonna go back. Yeah, which was inclusionary, which was, ADA swings, and it had other equipment. It's all gone. So broken, it had the graffiti.
Why don't we replace the broken piece of broadly with the inclusionary merry-go-round thing, and then get a proposal and recommendations regarding Walnut, and the council can make a decision on that. They're not.
Right.
There's two separate decisions.
One, which in Robbie, which is more, it will have more ground ones, it will have sensory, to me, this is still for sensory rather than for their perception, for being muscle. And I'd like to actually advocate the spinner, which I think is a fantastic piece, to go with the Walnut and also the screen, which matches the Walnut motif.
Right, but we should handle the two parts separately, right?
Yeah.
Mayor, if
Go ahead.
sorry to interject, if I may, the walnut may be a good recommendation for that. Potential.
So that's a fairly.
Okay.
All that stuff is there.
Walnut is the, we replaced along the main playground.
So what was it, so back to Robbie for a second, right, we had a recommendation here. What's the recommendation based on?
The recommendation is based on what's currently existing, space and what is felt that is a piece of equipment that is used heavily, and the ruggedness and the area of this will last a long time. If you get eight kids, so just based on its durability too, size and durability.
Let's say we broke it down to spinners in a row in this spot.
And it's an inclusive piece of playground.
I love the equipment, I just, we just keep breaking the spinner.
All right, can I get a sense from the council? How you feel about the spinner replacing it? Jeff?
I'm going with it.
I'm on these playgrounds every day, I don't want my kids to play, I'm going with the dome. I love the spinner idea, but not the fun.
What?
No.
Oh, Adam?
I go with the council president, this is professionals that matter.
Julie?
I don't really have an opinion either, I'm sorry, but I hear what Lauren's saying, they are alive, and I don't like the fact that they're probably just broken, but the professional would want that there, so.
It sounds like we have a consensus in the spinner at Rocky Park, and then we'll put together a presentation.
Yeah.
with Walnut Park that is separate, okay?
And then just for Walnut, as you're talking about that small box there. Now you ready?
Yes.
We've been through it before.
Not, look for my question.
Oh, go ahead. Yes,
I'm never replacing it,
yes, I think it's.
so it's very important that we might.
Yeah. Go ahead, Julie.
Taking time this week is the request proposal for the charging stations during the week.
You're actually gonna get a reply to draft tomorrow morning, because it's been rewritten a little bit, and I'm also comfortable, bringing it along to administration to send out, and I also need a little bit more input with the chief for heating your office as well, as the designated person is, and we can figure it out from there, but the intent is still to get it out, to get it advertised.
Okay. And then the second question is, I remember, that a year ago budget time, Omar had requested, funds for updating the sound system here. We're about to go into winter and people might be doing much more calling in. I know my council, a number of council people have had to do it from home and hear firsthand how poor the sound situation is, and I know it has not been indicated. I was wondering if, perhaps, you might be able to assist, you know, in updating this.
Absolutely.
I know I'm really.
No, absolutely, you're 100% correct. I believe, and Omar is setting this, and I think there is a recent update. Omar, if you don't mind,
So, I just received back from, PIS, who, provided us a proposal to update the equipment, primarily for, virtual meetings and having, best, picture quality, best sound quality. I have, hopefully right here actually. And it will be the updating of, let's say, the broadcast license, there's an iPad provided to us and updates to our Ethernet and believe they're adding 6 cables throughout the borough. I know that they say a little bit about Cat6 cable about high speed cables for the pressure. And that all came to the $26,900. So at this point, I had to contact BIS, and BIS will come out, we reach this proposal, and they're going to
Sure.
So I am in glasses. I cannot read the names that are on their screen. Definitely glasses, but other than the little ones. I would actually like to just add another additional monitor that the council can see right here and in this area. I got a small little TV monitor so that we can see what's going on. There's a lot that we're straining to see the larger screen.
We just have an understanding of what the costs are, the decision about it. I don't know how they're.
$99. That's good.
The lawyer who's operating to also, Omar, is we used to have, of course, the high school student was the person who would report all the meetings. Is there any direction to revisit that? Because I think that would also help with, you know, that person was always, kind of doing the sound checking, it's less for.
Sure. Yeah, so actually had a discussion with the board over at the school. And he did approach me in regards to that. And I don't see issue as to, we actually discussed the possibility of doing it and the other great.
Yeah.
Having the student that I have to work with the parent system back there. So me and Dave still working on the details. He said he has someone in mind. Again, this item, that student who get a, will be paid. We have the budget of a line item for that. So, it's just a matter of, you know, identify that student and have.
Thank you.
Dan, do you have a question?
No.
Any other questions on the administrative report?
Mayor, my own thing, just with the rest of Parker, any questions, we're okay to proceed with the relocation of the chess tables?
One more question. The corner of the triangle on the concrete road and there was the old gas station with roughly light that I keep saying is down. That is on that.
Good question.
I'll ask-
We got the car removed, we got the valves removed. So now we'll go for I'm sure we get the full remote.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's all of it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move, thank you, Jimmy, we'll move on to public comment now. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body items on the committee of the whole agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Christine, come on up. You got your hand up first.
Christine Avron, 39 Leroy Street.
As president of the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to invite all of you and the public to the holiday parade, December 8th. And note that in addition to the tree being decorated, that we have the Rotary Club also decorated the bandstand as we discussed, as June is now completed. Another chamber thing, for the restaurant, street seating, whatever your decision is, can you make it as soon as possible? The businesses need lead time to be able to implement whatever you say. For instance, it takes months to get umbrellas, for instance. So if you could make that decision that you are or are not going to commit in April street seating, please do it then, because it makes it easier for everyone. Those were my chamber comments. What time is on December? Oh, sorry, 6 o'clock. We meet by Resco Park. We march behind the fire truck up to the pilot park, and we will have a small presentation. We will have pieces of it.
That's a night of the Norway.
That's it.
No, that's 90. That was much later. That's later in the year this year. We usually do schedule it over. We will hopefully have some Israeli dance. We try to include everybody with your celebration. Sorry, I didn't. For the recreation grant, what were the limitations on that grant? I know you're very concerned with the field, but 80% of our towns don't have kids. You also look at nature center grant and some of the public spaces for people who, for families that don't have kids. Same thing with the rest of the park. HBC designed this as a contemplative park to honor our Medal of Honor winner. There's a lot of open space for contemplation. It was never, after great discussion, it was decided not to put picnic tables in, not to put ping pong tables in, not to bring in lots of kids into the park. That this was a more adult contemplation. Please keep that in mind. So I would like to know what the grant limitations were for that grant for other things besides playground equipment or fields.
You don't have to advise the copy.
It does work. We're just, can you look at other things for 80% of the town? The homes in town that don't have it.
So that's so the grant company that we recently engaged with provides all grant opportunities. So they range from schools, everything under umbrella that you can think of. So literally we've had this this subscription with them for a month or so at this point. So yes, I am mindful of whether that comes in because I look at that, I log on every week.
This particular grant applying to just
Public recreation facilities, local municipal recreation, this local state.
companies that are really qualified.
We do share, sorry, my money, we do share, I am my own share of those opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions? Christine,
That was it, thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the bridge, are you doing concrete work on emergency, for the emergency work on the bridge?
Concrete, I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Is this still an emergency work, if you don't think it's cold? I know we're.
Well, that's a question for the engineers.
I understand, you might not have to rush through the decision, and you can't do the work in March.
The work gonna be done by next week.
Yeah, there.
Jeff?
I'm not finished that.
Yeah, so we did ask and online and Susan could attest to it too. She was on the phone because we did ask specifically about the timing. And it was either like now, in the next week or so, there are ways to have heated covers, so the concrete can work, or we have to be completely shut down and then be done. March, April. So yes, they're confident that they have enough time with the, with the heating mechanism, literally a blanket, heated blanket, that they could do it.
Okay, yes, Joe.
Yeah, this is just before we're going to proceed, totally different topic. So Christine's son, Justin, has been involved with PZAC for a long time. He's currently serving president. I understand he's moving. And will not be able to continue to serve and. But I mean, you won't be able to serve the way he has. And one of the things you for sharing with the town and his volunteer efforts. And we'll also extend that state in person. That's all that I can do.
Good job. Good job. Okay, any other members of the public here would like to speak?
Is this an opportunity to talk about it?
Oh, no, you're gonna have your own special conversation. If you have another public comment to make about something else, you're certainly welcome to. I'm good, thank you. Omar, is there anyone out in the public there? Who's looking to speak? Putting your hand up?
See my answer.
Okay, so I'm gonna close public comment time. Thank you, everyone. Does any member of the council have questions about the resolution? Jeff, please.
I would like to pull R 22-385.
Any other questions about the resolutions? No. Yes, we do.
So R 22-394, which is about we always have these, and you know, the 3250 that So we take an escrow, or we put an escrow money for the stuff like that. So that people don't, replan. The amount of 3250 for 33 minor trees ends up being like $98.28 per tree, which I think is close to $100 per tree. Right now, our tree ordinance has an amount of $250 for minor trees and $450 for major trees. I understand this might be is something that was taken before the tree ordinance was put in place or change. But there's no date of when they come. Can we, in the future, future resolution, have a date on when the money is taken? Because I think it's important to know, what is change to the ordinance. Because we're doing $100 where I haven't seen any that reflected 250 for minor trees and plants.
We're short of correct.
I can't imagine that would be an issue, but I understood the concern.
Anyone check?
I would say I've been working a lot with Mike about issues of change stuff with the environmental commission as well about that in a minute. He is, the office has been clearing up 4 room 1, right? So that a lot of times I'll have 6 months from the time they get the CO to a building, if you're talking, it could be a lag time of quite a while to compliment point, but let's just be sure.
But we made the change in April or somewhere around there.
Right.
To the tree ordinance and just to this one specifically before. I'm looking at it, 33 minor trees for 3250. And then it addresses the restitution of, planting 22 minor trees. And the applicant has agreed to forfeit 2 major trees. There wasn't, how, we're not planting major trees in minor trees, right? I mean, we're not doing that.
No, so the forfeit of funds would be the equivalent of the minor trees that were planted as well as 2 major trees, which also 2 major trees would not be $500 anymore either. So,
Correct.
yes.
But I'm saying that the 22 minor trees out of 33, to the remaining 11 correspond to 2 major trees?
No.
Because those,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
right,
That's-
22 have been planted, so that was, it was 1 for 1 of the minor trees. Now, the remaining 11, it talks about forfeiting 2 major trees. So I mean,
You have to look back at the prior version of the ordinance to see how it invaded it, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I can't give this, but what I would recommend is to put a whereas clause to say whereas the money was deposited on. And that would fix the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
But if you want to hold the tree, there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
so I say the other,
Hold the tree to get-
so the other thing you want to hold at this point is particular one. Or maybe everybody agrees.
well, we
Until the next.
can pull it out because it doesn't affect, it just us moving money from one of our accounts to another. Doesn't affect, yeah.
It's just weird. So why is this one different than the other one?
The others don't think that. It's a mix of making money.
The other ones are very straightforward.
There's smaller numbers of trees. Okay,
So
so that was 394.
with the pulling and also be, my stuff, so that.
Absolutely.
So just so that I'm clear, R 22-94 will be pulled
Correct,
and not added to the consent agenda.
correct. We go back to Mike Cassidy to find out the detail dates and what's going on. Okay, any other questions about the resolutions? Okay, any questions about the minutes? No, okay. For the good of the order, safe cannabis storage bookmarks, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor.
Yes, hi, so these are, so I'm a liaison to the Board of Health here in town. These are bookmarks that discuss the responsible storage of cannabis edibles. And they come from the county resources and Board of Health and a number of organizations together. And I wasn't sure what perhaps maybe our best way of delivering these to the public is maybe to put them in the our main area for the public to have access. Yeah. And so it's the type of thing where we're still working on getting more copies. These ones are in scan. Right, okay. I'm still working on getting that, they need to print, so you start saying you get them to CAPS versus these schools, right? That's great. So anyway, I didn't know, Mr. Mayor, if you thought that could be included in like the newsletter or something, just saying that there's resources for this.
You can distribute those in Borough Hall here.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Okay, old business. Do you want to say something? No? Okay. Old business, the library roof repair, Craig and Jimmy just stepped away. We already did the Broadway Park.
When you get back, I think you also did an update on this time.
Yes.
He's on a good time.
Second. Take it to the.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a 2-minute break.
I know that your agenda is very. So last time you here.
That is not make about.
Party in progress.
Okay, so we're in old business, library review prepare update.
Yeah, so. We have two options, essentially. Full replacement or another option, a less expensive option, more economical option is the sealant membrane cover. So it's appropriate for the council to have serious discussions and better understanding of which option or general direction that would you'd like to go in with regard to the library review. Because also that would include, if it is the membrane solution, I think would serve the library well to do research since they are willing, in general, to assist financially in whatever. Of course, they would probably prefer a replacement, but they did express interest and willingness to financially partake in this project. So I think
You mean insurance, not the group.
No,
the
the roof that agreed to put some minor insurance costs in.
I would be an engineer.
So what was the next step on this?
I mean, Andy had recommended this. I mean, if you want, I could have, I could get, if you'd like, of course, understood. Yeah, those costs were, yeah, I could get, I do have that, some of that information. I could get it shared to have a better, area word.
Like, yes, we've talked about it on, right, library board comes.
Well,
So they haven't taken out the checkbook. They want to know also what it's going to cost, what it's going to look like. We've shared information about the products with the library, have preliminary talks about money. They've had conversations about it. They haven't taken a vote on it officially any more than the council has taken a vote on it. So that's where the discussions are. They philosophically have agreed to contribute to the cost of the improvement budget.
And they just need ceiling, roof replacement.
Correct, with the total cost, so there's different options. So if we want, we can put this on to be considered for the next meeting. And have the engineer do a presentation. But
And ask Colliers what the options are for internal ceiling file. But again, we couldn't take them all to the fire inspection, fire retardant, right? So, but they are, some of them need to be annual replacement, so I would like to see the options. A little bit up there a long time, sure they have the material.
yeah, no problem. I can see if Andy's available on the 13th. Since that's a bit of a quick turnaround. But yeah, if not, then that's okay for January. We have the January.
So is the elementary school winter concert on the 13th?
No, I'm just saying, I mean, it's a short turnaround for Andy, so I don't know.
let's see what's going on. We're even.
I could be there for that.
All right, can you give a little update just on Bliss Avenue?
Yeah, we did receive an update during our engineering meeting this past week. The borough engineer Andy is estimating that this should be wrapped up and completed in no more than 30 to 45 days. There is some final coordination facilities, but that is the latest and greatest and will proceed at this point. It doesn't extend beyond.
Okay, questions? No? Yep. Jeff, any questions? Okay, could I have a motion to close the committee of the whole?
So,
A second? Second. All in favor? Okay, we're going to go right to the public meeting. Yeah,
With your development, we should go on the sidewalk earlier.
we're gonna do that right after 5 revisions to the agenda. So we're doing that. Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, The notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Okay, salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. We do the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark, have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dean.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson. Here. Councilmember Lennon. Here. Councilmember Records.
Present.
Councilmember Don O'Connor. Mr. Park. Here. Present.
Here. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 14th, 2022 regular meeting? Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Councilor, any revisions to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there has been added to the regular agenda, we need to follow this, the hearing on the sidewalk removal appeal. Additionally, it has been requested that resolution R 22-394 be pulled entirely from the agenda and not voted on at this meeting. And that resolution R 22-385 be pulled from consent agenda for a separate vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next item is Mr. and Mrs. Kidron. We're going to talk about your sidewalk and putting it at the next meeting. So who has questions for the Kidron? If any questions at all? Or we want to just discuss putting it into the next meeting?
I think we should start with that, because we
Yeah.
have a discussion.
We're into it.
Rehash.
Yeah.
In the discussion.
So what do we want to do? All right, Dan? Adam? Okay, so
So,
So-
for the record, the appeal has been opened, it's been properly noticed in accordance with our ordinance, which is Borough Code 20-6 sidewalks. And it is being carried on the record to a date certain of December 13th at 7:45 or as soon thereafter,
the residents need to be noticed
without further notice.
without further notice. So any questions on the process?
It's very clear, I appreciate you helping get my thoughts on it, and I know it's a little bit off, but I appreciate it. If you have any questions, again, we'll be more than happy to comment.
Okay,
Thank you for coming. Sorry, you can come back. Thank you. And I'm going to leave here, so it's very to the process, and I am very much. I'm looking forward to my, and having, which is leading and. Bring back a lot of them. The expenses that you're going through, I feel that on my. But you still have the chance to do my vote, so we'll see. Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay,
Welcome to stay and finish the process. Correct.
all right, so we have public comment time. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Would anyone like to speak? No one here wants to speak. Omar, is there anyone online?
I see no hands, Mayor.
No hands? Okay, we're gonna close public comments. Okay, the consent agenda, I think we'll first vote on the items to be voted on. So can I have a motion to approve R 22-390 through R 22-393 and R 22-395 through R 22-406, please?
So.
Have a second. Omar, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dean. Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Lennon. Yes. Councilmember Records.
Yes.
Councilmember Don O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'd like to get a motion please to approve R 22-385.
So I'd like to discussion for. We have a motion. We want to vote.
That's fine, go ahead, go ahead.
So the reason why I want to hold, I really am looking for a better understanding. We had 4 engineering firms that did. We have set aside initially $150,000 two of the bids came in under that threshold. Despite that, this council was asked to add 60,000, more than 150,000, to get to 210, to allow the choice of a bidder that came in at 205,540. When you look at the metrics that were used for determining this, part of it is close votes between three of the firms, and really some of it's determined by picking a structure 10% of the weighting, which means that we put very little value into the cost. And despite that, one firm that was $55,000 over the initial threshold still got 6.8 out of 10 points for being over. And we do have a problem with this, because we really do talk about the most responsible bidder, and the fact that we are looking to have a good job, but we seem to have a firm that were, two firms that were fairly competitive, had that weighting been shifted, had Brightfield, the one bidder, not had 6.8 for being over, and this would be a virtual tie. And in that case, I would think that we would want to go with the low cost firm that would be $60,000 more. If this were to be the final engineering, where it includes oversight, all the things that engineering includes, which this is not a good oversight project, then I would say this is a great deal, but this is for concept drawings and not for that final works. So I do want to have a better understanding if anyone wants to educate me why we had to add $60,000 when we seem to have a responsible bidder who was below that initial threshold, or at least for everyone to put their vote very clearly on the record that they are supporting and spending more money on engineering when it's a virtual tie. So,
Well, I can certainly speak as to the process. So the way that the process worked was that the council decided to go through the competitive contract provision of the local public contract law, which provides for an evaluation rather than a lowest responsible bidder, and also allows for a longer time period in compliance with what the American Rescue Fund plan would require if you were going to put out a contract. So it's not just under a professional services agreement, which would require a bid at all. So that was done. There was 5 independent evaluations taken and then averaged together, and that's just where the scoring ended up. I was the only one. That was.
that's not set in stone.
It is. It says it's someone in the RFP. Yes.
In the RFP.
Correct.
Right. I mean, it's not in statute somewhere that it has to be 25,
The
25.
statute requires the evaluation be made available in the RFP process, at the forefront of it, and that is what the evaluation committee came up with on how they wanted to rank the respondents. So all of that was considered prior to the RFP going out. The RFP was finalized, it was advertised, put on the street, and then you're bound by those values. And essentially every firm was scored on a basis of 0 to 100, with those percentages adding up to 100. There is a resident engineer that was part of the committee, but it's not one of the borough's professionals.
You want to make a motion and then just want everybody to think about what we're doing.
So do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second. Hold on, the motion. Motion. Second. Omar, please call roll.
Councilmember Lee,
I wish we had more time to go through each of the work. I want the project to move forward, so I'm going to fully yes, but I hear you.
Yeah. Let's go, Michael.
Yes.
Dr. O'Connor,
Yeah.
Councilmember Parker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just for fun, it's just for fun, because we have two teachers on the bench. The difference between 84 and 75, 76. When I went to school, that was the difference between like a B and a C. I will tell you, make it personal. I'd rather my son come up with a B than a C on his test. It is a big number, you know, we all know the math. So I take a B. I hire a B over C.
Since you're calling it out to the teacher, let me respond to the teacher.
Yeah.
When I design a rubric,
Yeah.
I can change the way so many ways to get different results. And getting those results from that rubric does make a difference in whether a person gets a B or C. I can change the rubric so that your son doesn't come home with a C, come home with a B. It's not that hard to do.
Right, the professionals came up with that rubric. I wouldn't challenge the rubric of the teacher if the teacher's running the class. It's okay, it's fine. I apologize for making the.
I would
No, I
also
take
just
that.
mention that through the averages of 5 different scores.
Including two professional engineers.
So, you know, there are some people that scored a 0 on something, but because somebody else may have viewed it differently and in their judgment, the averages obviously come out. The numbers, because it's an average, aren't quite showing the disparity of some of the votes.
Okay.
The vote was taken, we spent 55,000.
All right, committee reports, Dan.
I would say, Danny, my word is not that a great team with the project.
Have a report or not?
So when the projects around the new cloud guys, they had a family that they got more people now, not quite. It's around the waiting list.
Yeah, after the Boy Scout finished. We had 2 extra heads, so the wait list is now, we're down from 7. Partner to 2. Well, they would not, I probably can't think they did not for they just find energy that much.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Jeff, please.
Sorry.
Too many?
2 minutes. Starting with feedback met on November 28th. The highlights are that October, they set a record. They had 94 calls that they responded to.
That's great.
Not really.
Really good.
Well, not.
Actually, for low on
We're talking about roughly 3 calls a day that they responded to them on here. 67 people ended up being transported. The average response time was 7 minutes, which is actually lower than the prior one. The average time spent on each call is 39 minutes. Adding to the problems that they face, and by the way, we thank the council for authorizing improving their performance-based stipend, but adding to the problems they face, they have 2 ambulances, 2 rigs, 1 is out of service.
Can I make a comment? It's very specific to this.
Yes.
I had a conversation with Congressman Pasquale's office this week, asking if there's any end of the year federal grant money available for ambulances. They're going to get back to me by Friday, let me know. It's a little bit like winning the lottery, but we're trying.
Appreciate that.
But they do great job over there, so we'll see if we
The bottom line is we're going to be short 50%, we're going to go 50% rate with 1 ambulance, and that 1 ambulance was out of service this person. Fortunately, it was able to be repaired, but it had no lights or sirens working. Yeah, that's nice. You know, and they brought some. They brought some of that, so I can check and put back to you.
That's it.
All right, so that, by the way, they had elections, and that's where, we found out that Justin Everon is, the outgoing president, the incoming president, by the way, is Rachel Kelly. So DPW, I can make very quickly, because we've talked about most of it. The salt dome, we talked about, the bridge, we talked about. The only thing we didn't discuss is an oil water separator, which is going to be needed. And that's they're going to need to close the tank, convert to a sanitary sewer. Cleanup has not happened yet. They're looking to see if there's seepage, but they're going about $100,000 for that, and that's required by the state. So, yeah, we're just rolling along with council, as Councilor Michael said, a lot of infrastructure stuff that goes on the side, some of which we know about, some of which are surprised.
This is also the different part.
It really was. What else was, county inspections, culvert. Then next meeting, I'll put this book at HBC that on December 1st. They actually met with Chris Blake, who's the architect for the movie theater, Michal Sliderman, who's I think who's doing the interior design, and Yoav Reda, who's the owner, and a lot of very good discussion about at least design that will fit in with the keep in the town. This was a directive from the planning board that they meet with HPC. This is their second meeting. It will probably be the third down the road.
So they discuss any options we can emphasize. Not willing, not willing.
They are looking for facade that's the key thing is a certain look. It might even mirror to some degree in the bank. The corner, because then it would look the building on the corner of West Railroad and Washington Street also has a similar kind of facade. There was also a discussion about 91 West Clinton, which is the short building with the municipal field. There is some concern the fire inspector has about parking in the oval in front of the building because it's fire lane. And why does that concern HBC? Because signage and lines even on the entranceway are under HBC jurisdiction, so it is considered
Or a Resco.
no.
Okay, great.
Bring the entrance, bring cars of the parking in the fire inspector is very concerned. With that violating, there's no real. Then we had yesterday, meeting on the railroad station lighting. There was a quote from the electrical contractor for the 8,500, because if you look at how much the electric there was really dangerous and needs to be repaired before we have Notre Dame type of fire in there. So that's 38,500. We do have a county grant that we've received, matching grant. It was for 35, but it's 70,000 total, 35 from the county. But in addition, the grant actually covers roofing. Roofing, which is almost 27,000, and that doesn't include some of the other things that were really needed to be done to the roof, including the cost of fixing the cupola, gutters, painting. They know that names are being sent to Jimmy, and I appreciate that, carpenters and painters who might be able to do this, but it is something that probably will go over budget. And we're looking for either possible other sources of money, including that you know that there's an escrow that the tenant has to give, which is usable, but some of that money is also being used for the person overseeing, putting together these priorities for us, and making sure the work is done. And keeping with it for.
Is there any resistance to you to invest that money? I mean,
There's no resistance, it's not good.
okay, that's
That's, and even the outside lighting is even mentioned here, it's just electric so that the outside lighting won't function. There are some options we're looking to come back with recommendation. If we're going to maintain this gem of a building, which really is a centerpiece, we have to put something.
yeah, it's gotta be taken. Have to spend money to maintain it.
I'll ask if they do minutes.
All right.
All right, well, we've also, I believe, Jimmy has asked the county for an extension for this grant funding. The date is coming up, so you haven't heard it.
Actually, no, it's only up in an hour or so after me sending something to you now. Just a couple of things. So yes, so they did extend it 1 year. So I think it's December 23, like 2023, so I believe it's 22nd or 23rd of December that expired this year. So it was extended 1 year, which is fantastic. As Councilman Grossman said, I think the last piece to this, because there was an inspection report done. I'm not sure how many, fairly recently, like from Adrian's, on the building outlining the list of improvements that should be done to the building. So this last piece of the carpenter would pretty much complete everything on that list. We didn't want to not complete anything on the list as best we can. So we're trying to do it if we can do it within the grant plus potentially the escrow money for the lease. So I did call the one recommended carpenter today, and Friday we'll set up a meeting for the following week. So some good news that it was extended, and we're moving forward with the last quote, and make a recommendation to move forward.
I think that's pretty much.
Yeah.
If you saw the pictures of the current electric there,
It's a mess.
you would be, I'm not even going in that.
Anything else, Jeff?
That is a thank you.
Thank you. Lauren?
I had two committee meetings. The very first one was just the Northern Valley Greenway Act. And every January, we were meeting we issued a resolution allowing us to be part of Northern Valley Greenway. It also appoints our 2 resident liaisons. We must do that every year, or they have no authority to make decisions. So we just put that on the order. And there, our 2 people are Michael Cohen and Pat Coleman, and I believe they both want to be in the that is your. But I will say they are brave on the committee. They're very good participants, and they show up when many other municipal residents are not. So thank you. So please represent Tenafly. So that's NDG. Everyone should know that rather than everyone should know that the county is now building its own greenway somewhere else. You know, they are building it in a different railroad corridor that's not owned by CSX. And so our county executive, you know, and everyone should be very excited about open green space. Always a great idea wherever we can. I just hate to see, you know, I want attention on our greenway and hopefully some funding sources on our greenway eventually. So I don't want to be competing within my own challenge. Yes, I will.
It's just one, it's 1.3 miles.
Yeah. Smaller, it's longer, but again, within. So, and it should take a long time to build, get consensus, surveying, engineering. The second one that Matt, kind of like Nature Center, and I just want to tell anyone in our public listening, there's a membership push. Be a member of the Tenafly Nature Center. This is such an incredible resource. We are one of the only municipalities in the state and have its own data center. We were the only ones who were able to stay open during the pandemic. We're not state run. I would behoove all of us sitting here to please join the membership of the Tenafly Nature Center. Each one of us should be supporting them. I hope we get a few residents push joining them. And then I also say, you know, they submitted some recent grants and they've been doing tireless work to get funding for themselves. But one of the things I want to consider in the new year is actually designating a portion of our open space funds collected to the 400 acres that they are stewards of. Technically, it is our land and it is very expensive to maintain. You know, they do everything they can, educational programs, outreach, membership, dinners, and they still cannot pay their employees who run these programs well. They can't pay well for these employees. They are still constantly fully, you know, in budget prices. So I would behoove us to think about this. I'm not going to raise it yet. I'm Deborah Davidson, the director, and the board of the TNC is going to think about this. But again, we collect. Or Susan, who knows what do we collect each year?
Over 400,000, no.
Like over 400,000. So you know, just they have 400 of our acres. That
Can I go up that real quick?
yeah, go for it.
I spoke on that a little while back. There's like creative ways to this implement with manpower and figure out the solution for it, like let's say higher addition. So there's
I mean, I've tried to work with her multiple times, many other offers.
Yeah.
We need structural reform.
yes, yeah.
did.
Actual support, but that's not. Well, where we're responsible.
Or help them become self-supporting.
Yeah.
Right.
They try very hard to be, and you know, again, I don't think that they get the numbers they need to actually produce growth. Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, keep in mind this year for the very first time, we took them out of our budget and made them go through an open space process. Open space process, which required them to then itemize and give research or engineering to students who then had to satisfy the trust to release the money. It was a whole process for Deborah. That was the first time we tried it that way. And essentially it was a very long and intricate process before we budgeted that.
Again, I'm happy to help again. They need to be thinking about more revenue generating opportunities. Every school, they should be marketing us to every school, getting funding there. There should be other commercial ways that they can do it. And there's opportunities.
Keep in mind, they do have deed restrictions that require them to get passive recreation.
Absolutely. Every school that comes up there could bring them money.
I mean, they run with them. So, just.
Absolutely.
I just want to.
This is a whole.
I know, but just one thing, they have schools that actually want to come, and they don't have the money to hire more workers and teachers to run the education program. So it's that's what you do. Oh, I love it. They want people to read in forestry as well. I don't.
Okay, what's next? Okay.
And then Liz.
And we're, there's two meetings, first one in the senior center. And a couple of activities that they, needed, that they went to, energy musical. And, trip, Tropicana trip, October, they had a campaign president.
It was a good banking.
Actually, I think I talked about it, but they didn't mention anything else.
Men's club, dark side.
And then there was a trip to see a beautiful noise. Which is go back and they're getting out there doing all kinds of things. Most recently, this past weekend on Saturday, they had art sales. And well attended and things that are coming up on next year where they will they start their membership drive again. Last year, current year, they had over 500 people. The majority or a good percentage of them are not in Tenafly. So they're trying to do what they can. That was part of the board discussion. Trader about bringing advising people in Tenafly of everything. So and how to reach out to them. So something like 60 to 65% are non-Tenafly. But yeah, so the membership will right. And so that was on the board for justice. There was one application, one request for variance for that had two requests. One was for an increased fluoride ratio, and another for a 5-yard setback had to be required and not both were agreed to. And that was the one.
That's it. Okay.
There.
Thank you. Adam, please.
Two committees, downtown committee, just on behalf of downtown committee, just wanted to thank this council for continuing to move us forward. Good work on the marketing efforts and now the engineering, so thank you, council, on that. Joint use we had today. Not sure, I think we dealt on just about everything. I don't think I have anything to say much about that.
Got your lots on the tennis court.
Yes, we got that.
We got some computer stuff for further discussion.
You're a better man than I am.
Sounds better, right?
We did speak about it.
There were many conversations about IT and security and the computers that have to be replaced, that should be embedded to budget. There's more details to come on that.
And then the recreation, as I believe it was mentioned, this weekend, we have ice rinks opened up on Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 4, I believe, and then skating with Santa. I know Dan's all over that one. Next Wednesday, the 14th, I believe, like 2 to 5 or something. So excited for that as well. So good to see some progress being made. Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
When was Santa thought?
Wednesday, 2 to 5, I think. No, it's the 14th.
14.
Yeah, 3:30 to 5:30.
We make 100 speak.
Hanukkah Harry will be making an appearance. So all happy.
Go ahead.
The environmental commission is a follow to a Councilman Lennon was speaking earlier about the shade tree trust. We're having a focus on utilizing the funds once they're in the shade tree trust to actually get to more trees getting planted in the town. And to that end, we're going to be advertising. We do have a lot of new residents since the last time this was ever done about people who want to sign up to get a tree planted by the town to contact the DPW. And that announcement should be going into the newsletter, the next newsletter that comes out. And I had sent that with the wording I had crafted with Mr. Cassidy. So that should be starting to advertise that. We're getting some nice movement about, starting to utilize that funds in that shade tree trust to really try to get some trees planted in the upcoming spring. Also, we have a tentative date for the trash-a-thon. It's going to be May 7th, and that always does. I do work along with the Tenafly Nature Center. With that funds for the trash-a-thon, both benefit the Nature Center and of course it cleans the community. hopefully we'll, move our student liaisons to the environmental commission pursuing the cleanup project as well with Hackensack River Keeper, who is at a table of the leading municipalities and, to hopefully, clean up some of the waterways lighted by the high school. So more on that.
And it comes from meeting. I don't know, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we'll have to check the minutes. They came and they asked, we make a, a cleanup of the road around that.
They came to what, meet like a business meeting?
Yeah.
It was a Boy Scout.
Oh.
Anyway.
So I'll see if you can just that along. Our student liaison is going to be reaching out to Hackensack River Keeper, so when I get some details, I'll definitely share. And I talked about for the health committee, board of health, there's the safe cannabis storage, which now the bookmarks will be in the left them with you on March, if you don't mind putting them in the main area. And I'll get more for Councilman Park. And in my local dog catcher report, it happened again, this last weekend. I was walking around, found another dog wandering around, contacted the police again, and they came again, and I want the extra stipend. Yeah. I went to the police and I'm like, oh, another one. They was very calm. No,
Thank you for all the committee reports. Now we're on to new business. Okay. All right, this is our 22-407 amendment 2022 capital budget. Can I get a motion from I get a second? Okay, Omar, can you please conduct the roll call?
Sure. Councilmember David?
Yeah.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett? Yes. Councilmember Michaels?
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yeah.
Councilmember Parker?
You didn't do that, I moved to the top.
It's not adopted.
It's the resolution.
I'm sorry. I moved to the top.
It's resolution 407.
Oh,
right.
Now the introduction, the ordinance.
Okay, this is introduction of ordinance 22-25 general capital fund balance appropriation for emergency repairs, pedestrian bridge. Councilman Grossman, would you like to make this motion, please?
I move to introduce and pass on the first reading ordinance 22-25 and set the hearing for December 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
I have a second, please. Who did the second? Dan? Okay, Omar, can you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 22-25, an ordinance of the borough of Tenafly and County of New Jersey appropriating $5,000 for replacement of the approach slab and vertical railing leading to the pedestrian bridge over Central Hill Brook to the rest of the park. Councilmember David?
Yeah.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Here.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yeah.
Councilmember Parker?
Yeah. Okay. In my marriage remarks, what's that? Susan, thanks for being here tonight patiently. That's it. No, we have no closed session tonight. Can I? No, I have no marriage remarks tonight. No, I think I don't want to make marriage remarks. We got a copy of the federal papers on the 28th. I'd like to push it. Can I get a motion to close the? Have a second. All in favor? Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Stepping 1, 2.